But the very best advice I really got take away was to start looking at a patient as a whole entity and not as individual health problems. Okay. Meaning, when I was in school, I was taught there's a diabetic diet, there's a high cholesterol diet, there's a weight loss diet. Everything was separate, only to realize it's all one and the same. So no matter if you were to come to me for weight loss, high cholesterol, inflammation, and diabetes, I'm going to teach you now the art of one style of eating. It just opened my mind. And at that point, after that lecture, I threw away all my old materials that I was giving clients, and I started over, and I started having great success.
Welcome to the Hope, Health, and Wellness Advocacy podcast. This episode, we're talking with Heather Duquette-Wolf. She's bringing sexy back to nutrition and lifestyle. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Health and Wellness podcast. Today, I've got with me Heather Duquette-Wolf, and I'm so excited to be able to share her with you today because I worked with her 10 years ago. Heather is owner of HMD Nutrition in Scottsdale, Arizona. She's a registered dietitian and certified specialist in sports dietetics. She's been in practice since 1999. And she started with medical nutrition therapy and expanded her area of expertise to include intestinal disorders, inflammatory disease, and exercise nutrition. And I'm so happy that I've worked with her. That's why I want to share her today. About 10 years ago, I had an issue where it started with blood clots. I had a random accident with my foot, had 4 fractures that ended up with blood clots up and down my right leg and then eventually into both lungs. That set off a series of events for me, health-wise, medically, that landed me in a cardiologist office where Heather worked at the time. She worked side by side with doctors, and I was able to use her services to approach my many complicated issues I had at that time that were really stumping doctors through diet. Diet wasn't the only tool we used, but I was astounded at how well Heather heard what I was saying and was able to take my diet, and it wasn't this foreign, like you just change everything about yourself. It was, everything was explained to me how what I was doing was affecting my health and how these changes that she was proposing would better my health. And also she taught me a lot. You know, for me, growing up in Georgia, I can tell you sweet tea and fried foods are the norm. And only once things become really out of control do people search to find out, wait, sweet tea is not part of the food group. So she was really able to educate me on how to better eat, especially for my current health issues. And that's what really turned me on, because prior to meeting with Heather, I had worked with people who did not have that kind of understanding. It was, this is what you do. And if you can't do it for whatever reason, or you have these health problems that aren't served by this way that I'm proposing that you eat, it's kind of too bad. And so I really kind of had a distaste, if I'm being honest, for dietitians prior to meeting Heather, but Heather turned that around. So that's why I'm so excited to have her on today. So welcome, Heather. Thank you for being here today.
Well, thank you. I'm happy to be here. Thank you for all of your kind words. It was a pleasure working with you then, and I'm really happy to be here with you again today. Thank you.
Well, thanks so much for agreeing to do this. I worked with you recently to kind of check in, because as I age and as my health problems, we learn more about them, and we also learn perimenopause. That throws a wrench into everything, right? And so you and I worked together recently to kind of check in and kind of tweak. And again, the education I got from you, it's like I already feel like I read a lot online and I pay attention, and I actually have an opportunity to talk to a lot of doctors, but being able to talk to you directly was still so informative. Like my notes, I was going so fast, and I really appreciate it. So I'm hoping that today we kind of shed light for others, that they too can see how working with you is going to take your health to the next level. You have a comment on your website. You said, with my style of education and your motivation for change, we can eliminate most health issues, not just manage your weight. And that's really, you know, obviously my weight is an issue, but it's not my top concern. It's getting healthy. And then once I can get stabilized, I want to worry about the weight. And so I love that about you, because you've never talked to me about my weight in a condescending, awful way. And I also feel like you've always never treated me like I was dumb to not know certain things. So, you know, one of the things that I wanted to go over today with you that's kind of a hot topic, if you will, is this new drug, or I think it's a new drug. I don't know that it actually is a new drug. It just has a new use that we're all finding out about, Ozempic. Can you tell us a little bit about, from your perspective, how Ozempic is being used today? And is this something that we should look at? Or is this, you know, just another Hollywood fad that we should avoid?
Okay, great. It's a great question. It's a big topic with a lot of controversy, if you will, because Ozempic, yes, was developed for people with not type 1, but type 2 diabetes, okay? And they discovered with a lot of the patients at first were noticing some more weight loss than normal and better appetite control. We all understand that the hardest part about losing weight is if you're hungry all the time, right? If you're hungry, of course you're going to eat. Whether it's good food or bad food, it can be very hard to control when we're having food thoughts all of the time. So I've also done a lot of research in how well. So for example, they did a double-blind study, which means that both groups don't know who's getting the drug or who's getting the placebo, right? Given the same diet and same exercise. And the group with the Ozempic lost a few percent more of their body weight. Wasn't a huge amount, but it was enough for scientists to say, well, why not give it a try? If you can lose an extra 5% of body weight, fantastic. So we didn't have an understanding that it's helping some, not all, individuals have better appetite control. And so I've been asked this question. And so for my non-diabetic clients, I'm very quickly inclined to say, let's do this naturally. And here's why. Number one, if there's an appetite control issue, there's underlying reasons. You can have poor appetite due to an unhealthy gut microbiome. Believe it or not, if you've got too much bad bacteria thriving in the gut, they're alive and they're talking to you and they're saying, eat more food, eat more carbs, crave sugar. It can be a gut microbiome issue. It can be lack of movement and exercise, actually can make you more hungry. Lack of sleep. It's absolutely, I think we all can attest, if we have a night with no sleep with insomnia, we're starving all the next day because our body's so fatigued. So there's sleep, there's stress management. Cortisol is going to make blood sugar spike and drop and make you hungry. How's your thyroid? How are things like neurotransmitters? You know, 80% of our serotonin is actually built in the gut, not the brain. So when we really start to look at the multiple factors of what can cause someone's appetite to be out of control, I personally would prefer somebody to work on those issues to make it life lasting. And here's why. Number one, Ozempic, like all medications, can have some pretty serious side effects. Retinal issues, believe it or not, pretty significant gallbladder issues, and kidney issues. There's always, if you look at the instruction sheets, you know, there's always side effects. So if you're not diabetic, is it worth getting that appetite control for those potential problems? They also discovered that when people went off Ozempic, the appetite issue came right back. So people would go back to eating more and gain it back. So think about this. I have no problem if someone wants to use it as a temporary appetite control. But again, if you're not underlying the real cause of the appetite control issue, do you want to be on the medication forever? Because without insurance, it can be like $900 to $1,200 per month for Ozempic. And then you hear about the shortage of Ozempic for the actual diabetics who need it. So when you kind of put that all together in a mosh pit, right? My first instinct is, let's see if we can't figure out how to get your appetite under control naturally. Maybe you're just not having a balanced diet where the meal is causing your blood sugar to spike, crash. When blood sugars crash, we're really hungry. I don't care who you are. That's a natural response. I need to eat now. And, you know, it's like eating the half box of crackers before you're making dinner because you're so hungry when you get home. So when you think about all that together, I would prefer, from my vantage point as a professional, to work on the appetite control issue itself versus using a drug that's really meant for diabetics and can have potential side effects.
I hear you on that. I appreciate that viewpoint, because I'm definitely about prevention. I've found through my many years of chronic complex health issues that if you could take something and it bridge the gap and you could, at the end of it, be where you want to be. But that generally hasn't been the case. It is, we get you through, and at some point you have to get off the medication. Either it's cost prohibitive or your body just starts not responding as well to it. And at that point, what do you have? It's a better investment to go through the time to figure out what is causing me to eat this way. So yeah, I completely agree with what you said. And obviously I love how you educated us on where you came from that position. I'm kind of curious, I ask everyone that I interview about the best advice they've given and the best advice they've received. And I wondered if you could share that with us now.
Absolutely. And this stems from a long time ago. When I first got out of college, as a dietitian, we were taught the old food guide pyramid and everything. Yes, I have a science degree, it's very technical, but at the end of the day, it was the food guide pyramid, eat 7 to 11 servings of grains and eat, limit animal protein and limit fat a lot. And we really had an upside down message, again, realizing that this information is coming from the government and it really wasn't the best advice. And the reason why I can say that now, I started working immediately in a doctor's office. I had my first cardiology practice, working with people wanting to lose weight, lower cholesterol, lower blood sugars. And after about a year, I never felt like I was getting results. And I thought either the patients are completely non-compliant or I don't know what I'm talking about. And I just started doing some more research and will never forget, I went to my first 4-day in-person lecture. It was in Las Vegas. And it was more about earth to mouth eating, like really understanding the value of whole food eating. And we weren't really taught from that perspective in school. After 5 years of education, it was like food guide pyramid, use diet products, diet soda, limit your sugar, eat fat free. That's our formal education. And as I heard after this 4th day, the best advice I'd ever received was, one, we need to stop eating foods that are so processed. Like a whole food is one ingredient, right? Your piece of chicken, your apple, your lettuce. It just kind of made sense because even in my education, we were taught, use a diet soda instead of a real soda. It's better for a diabetic. Never really realizing the impact that these chemicals were having on our health, and they weren't helping, they were hurting. But the very best advice I really got take away was to start looking at a patient as a whole entity and not as individual health problems. Okay. Meaning when I was in school, I was taught there's a diabetic diet, there's a high cholesterol diet, there's a weight loss diet. Everything was separate, only to realize it's all one and the same. So no matter if you were to come to me for weight loss, high cholesterol, inflammation, and diabetes, I'm going to teach you now the art of one style of eating. It just opened my mind. And at that point, after that lecture, I threw away all my old materials that I was giving clients, and I started over. And I started having great success. It was a turning point for my career to be the dietitian that I am today. And that's why I spend an hour of education on the initial consult, like getting people to truly understand in a fun, simple way about their biochemistry and how their body responds to food. So that was life-changing for my career. Had I stayed on that same path, I'd probably still be using the food guide pyramid, telling people to eat 55 to 65% of their calories from carbohydrates and eating fat-free and using diet products. So you know me, Tara, that's just the opposite of how I practice today, but that's why I get the results. So that was life-changing for me. Great advice.
It wasn't getting the results, like you said. Doing the right things were not right for me, for the health issues I was dealing with at the time. So appreciative that you went to Vegas and learned all that you did.
It was life-changing. And again, just to kind of summarize what I was saying earlier, is that as my client or patient, when I send an assessment form and I have you write down absolutely everything, I read it before the meeting so I can mentally prepare to integrate everything that's going on into one conversation. If our medical field did that, instead of going to one doctor for GI and one doctor for heart disease, we'd have better healthcare. But that's just a reality of how our healthcare is. And so I'm considered like a functional dietitian, and where I kind of try to incorporate everything. Again, working for so long, I am able to really work on multiple things. Let's face it, our body knows how to heal itself. It really, really does. And so given that we don't have to treat everything separately, things will kind of get worse together and get better together, for sure.
Awesome. So that was the best advice you received. What's the best advice that you've given?
What I like
besides everything that you've given to me.
No, it's wonderful. And I try to, first of all, when people come to me, it's usually when they've tried everything else. They've gone to multiple doctors and they're feeling maybe like you, frustrated, like this isn't working. I'm really trying to do everything that my doctor's telling me to do. And we get into sometimes a little bit of not a victim mentality, but a mentality of owning a disease. If sometimes I'm like, so explain yourself to me. Well, I'm diabetic, I have heart disease, and I'm arthritic. One thing I try to have people to do is to not own or let their diseases define them, because some doctors will tell you, once a diabetic, you're always a diabetic. I have an issue with that. Most health problems are reversible. Okay, it took a small amount of time to get to that point, because often we see overweight, high cholesterol, say diabetes, we call that metabolic syndrome. It took time for all of that to occur, and it comes usually together, and it will take a little bit of time, but they'll all reverse at the same time. So number one is I want people, don't own that disease. Don't let it become who you are, and get succumb to, I just have to keep taking more pills and more pills and getting new scripts. Medications are very helpful and life-saving. It can be life-saving many times, but they're a Band-Aid. They don't, a pill does not get rid of diabetes. How you get rid of diabetes is through proper things like eating right, as I mentioned earlier, exercising, sleep, stress management, cleaning up the gut microbiome. It's this beautiful, wonderful, many things that we can do to completely reverse. I've had clients up to 50 units of insulin per day, now completely non-diabetic through dietary change. And like I said, exercise and all of it. So I don't want people to own that and feel a victim to the disease, thinking, well, there's nothing I can do. I have a strong family history of high cholesterol. Genetics only accounts for maybe 10-20% of really what happens, unless it's really, really strong, but that's rare. Really what we can do, if we can understand our genetics, for example, you can take two different families. They both eat too much sugar. One family gets overweight, high cholesterol, diabetes. The other one gains a little bit of weight, but they start getting GI issues, autoimmune, arthritis, joint pain, skin rashes. So that's where the genetics will decide where you land. When we eat poorly, what is your genetics going to move towards? High cholesterol or arthritis, right? So understanding your genetics is powerful, but it does not determine your future. What determines your future is how you eat your food, move your body, and rest. So I really want my clients to understand that. Don't give in to that. There's no such thing as a quick fix. I don't believe in calorie restriction and starving our bodies to death. We end up losing muscle, not body fat. And there's no magical pill. And again, going back to the example, just as an example, I have no problem people using things as an aid short term, but we still need to fix everything else that goes along with it. It's kind of like back, many years ago with the diet pills that we get for prescriptions, like stimulants. Some were pulled off the market because it was causing high blood pressure and heart attacks. There's always quick fixes, like diet pills and products. So just be mindful. I try to tell my clients to not give 100% to that, because sometimes it's placebo. Think about this. If I take a diet pill, now I feel empowered, I'm going to lose weight. So you know what I'm going to do to help that along? I'm going to eat better and exercise a little bit more. It's most likely the diet and exercise that helped to improve the issues and not necessarily the pill. But we have a tendency to attach ourselves to that idea or pill or quick fix instead of really realizing it just might be everything else that we're doing alongside of it. And that's that mental conversion that we get with such products. So really helping people to understand that they can move beyond disease, to become healthy once again, and become undiabetic. I don't believe that just because you're sick with something, you have to spend the rest of your life saying, for example, that you're a diabetic.
I love that. You know, the reason why the name of this is Hope, Health, and Wellness is because I do believe I've seen it, the power of just, I can't say what tools in your toolbox you specifically, or for those that are out there watching this who may be diabetic or may have other chronic health issues that feel like there's no hope out there. Because if you just go to your doctors and you just kind of listen to what's out there, unfortunately, there's not a lot of hope
Yeah.
messaging out there. And so definitely through this podcast and through my efforts, I want people to know, you know, it's may not be easy. Like you said, there's not a magic pill. And it can take some effort and time, but there's hope and definitely improvement, if not reversing a lot of these issues. And so that's why I bring people that I know that are magical in being able to help people in that way to do that. So I'm so thankful that you shared that today, because again, I love the hope in that. That's what I want to bring to people. So I would be remiss if I didn't ask you, of all people, for a recipe. I ask everyone on here to share their favorite recipe, but you, of course, I want at least one recipe, if not more, of your favorite and why it's your favorite, or why you would want to share that with us.
Okay. Sure. I've got a few staples that I even do all the time. Obviously, I practice what I preach, right? Because we grew up saying, eat a bowl of oatmeal every morning. It's good to lower cholesterol. But unfortunately, the minute amount of fiber, say, in a bowl of oatmeal does not outweigh the amount of carbohydrates or sugar it turns into. And sometimes I like something kind of sweet in the morning. Of course, I love my eggs because they don't raise cholesterol. But I was always searching for something a little bit different. And I know overnight oats has been very popular, but where I landed and love to share with my clients is an overnight chia seed pudding. It is so simple and so quick. I just take a mason jar. I put in 8 ounces. I use unsweetened almond milk. You can use any type of milk that you prefer, of course, but it's got no sugar in it. I like the unsweetened vanilla almond milk. I put 3 tablespoons of chia seed. I have a bottle of liquid stevia. I put about 3 to 5 drops. It's pretty sweet. And then I just kind of shake it, and I will shake it and suspend it, roll it around the counter for about 5 minutes. I want to make sure all the seeds are suspended, because if you just put it in the fridge, they sink to the bottom. And unfortunately, it doesn't really work well. But wake up in the morning, you've got this beautiful, lightly sweetened pudding. And then you can top that with fresh berries. I love raspberries, blueberries or blackberries, some slivered almonds, some type of low carb, like maybe a grain-free granola, like keto nut granola. And you can make those, for the week. And it's just a really great way, if you're in a hurry in the morning, to get up and have something very well balanced, lots of healthy fiber, fat, and protein with very minimal sugar to keep your blood sugars balanced all morning. So that's one of my new ones that I've been using recently that I like. I know that oftentimes when we think about recipes, we overthink it. I'm not Betty Crocker. I don't expect any of my clients to be. And I know recipes, and you open a recipe book and there's like 17 spices that you don't own, and it can be overwhelming. I think really to eat healthy is simple. For example, once a week, I do this dinner every week. Whether you want to use chicken breast, boneless, skinless chicken thighs. We use chicken thighs in my home. I just like the flavor better. They're really not that much more calories than the chicken breast. So I get a large package because I do like to cook for leftovers, and I'll put those on my baking pan. And obviously, I have many different seasonings, from everything bagel seasoning to rotisserie chicken seasoning. Sometimes it's salt, pepper, and paprika, whatever flavor that you like. And on another pan, I put parchment paper down, which I use on both pans, by the way. And I roast vegetables at the same time. I might do broccoli, cauliflower, and chunked up red onion. Actually, last night we did Brussels sprouts, asparagus, and just a few carrots. I do a little bit of for the orange color, but really any vegetable you can roast. So I take the vegetables, I put them in a bowl, little olive oil and seasoning, shake it around so it gets the oil, and I put them on. My chicken takes 25 minutes. The vegetables take 20. You have a beautiful meal like that that's so easy to put together. Roasting vegetables has been one of my favorite ways to cook. They come out beautifully, and I can use the onions. They get a bit caramelized. And so you can use whatever seasoning you like on your vegetables. But when we think about eating healthy, it can be simple and can be very quick. I mean, that meal is definitely at least once a week. Something I'd like to do, we all love to grill out and cook, and realize, some people they don't digest red meat well. I personally like to use ground turkey a lot more from a digestive issue. So I think we all know that turkey burgers usually can be pretty bland and dry. So experimented a lot. And what I landed on is I'm kind of almost famous in my neighborhood when I barbecue. I make jalapeno turkey burgers, and it's not difficult. I take the turkey, and of course, I mix in spices like salt, pepper, cumin. Or if you're in a rush, take a package of the Lipton onion beefy soup mix. I mean, it makes it taste more like beef. So I would use 1 packet for 2 pounds of ground turkey, or half a packet for 1 pound. I then buy a jar of chopped jalapeno. So it's the little pieces, not the whole, but the chopped jalapeno. And I'm not kidding when I say I put an entire handful with all of the juice. And when you mix that in, sometimes I'll pour a little extra of the juice. It keeps the burger super moist. And so if you'd like a little flavor, obviously from the spiciness from the jalapeno, and then when I make the patties, I rub the outside with coconut oil so they don't stick to the grill. So they stay formed and they're juicy. And a lot of people are like, that's a turkey burger. I'm like, it's just the flavoring, but it's also the juice from the jalapeno juice. And of course, then if you eat dairy, you can top that with spicy pepper jack cheese or cheddar cheese. We always do like lettuce, onion. I like red onion, lettuce, and tomato on there, and then whatever dressings that you like. But turkey burgers can be pretty darn good if you keep them moist and they don't get dry and stuck to your grill.
That's so interesting because you're right. I mean, we've tried turkey burgers and been very disappointed. Now I'm curious, the jalapenos, I'm kind of a lightweight. My husband has family from Louisiana, so he can handle a lot more spice than I can. But is it kind of mild, or can you make it milder if you need to? Or
you could do the same concept, like to take down the heat a little bit. I have banana peppers I like to put in salads as well. And I'd run out of jalapenos last time. I didn't realize it when I went to make my burgers. And I just chopped up some of the banana peppers and put a little bit of that juice in there, and they still came out quite as moist.
Awesome. And I wanted to go back to the chia seed because chia seeds have my attention because they're very anti-inflammatory. Is that correct?
Right.
I've been eating them because of that. So I hope that I thought that's what I read. So I love that because you can start your day. First of all, there's hydration. I start my day trying to pack my hydration, make sure I get enough water throughout the day. And so if I can get it through food, that's even better because I don't really enjoy drinking, doing this thing. My husband could drink all day. I think I've said before, like a 150-ounce bladder or something like that. But I'm not a drinker as much. So if I can get it in my food, but then also if I can pack anti-inflammatory throughout the day, that's so helpful. And it's really good for you. So I love that you brought chia seeds into it because I've gotten this kind of a kick of mine to try to find a way to get chia seeds in. I was doing energy balls or something that had chia seeds in them. So that's another way, but I love these recipes because you know me, I'm not a good cook. I've just started to become a cook to try to be better about my intake of what I'm eating, but it's a process and I'm not great at it. Nobody's like, hey, Tara's cooking tonight. Like that's not something you're going to hear people say. But I feel like you make it so attainable and easy. And in the mornings, I need something I can just grab. I'm not in a position to try to think through what I'm going to make or it's not how my life is at the moment. So I love these. I think these are great recipes that people will enjoy and can find something that really appeals to them. And I love that, it doesn't have to be bland to be good. It doesn't have to be joyless. I remember telling the story when I found out I had to go off gluten, and I literally mourned gluten for well over a year and had Pout Fest and just it's a thing. And I've heard other people kind of shamedly say, I feel really bad about it, but I know I need to do it. And I'm like, don't feel shame. That's a thing and it's a real thing and it's okay, especially in our society, because, food is such a social construct, right? Whether you're dating or meeting a friend, it's either drinks or eating. And, there's a lot involved in changing your diet. So I love that we can find a way to make healthy sexy. You brought sexy back to food. So thank you for that.
I love that. That's so great. And you're right. To your point is A lot of us don't have time. I mean, there are weeks when I know I don't have a lot of time for cooking, and I do my food prep for the week. I will make 8 chicken thighs. I'll make a lot of roasted vegetables. I'll pre-make my salad for the week. I'll hard boil my eggs for the week. We're all busy. And the more that we can be prepared, the more successful we're going to be with staying on a healthy diet. Doesn't mean we all don't have our pizza or ice cream once in a while. That's, it's called real life, especially when we're socializing, like you said. But if I can be personally prepared for the week, getting my groceries, doing a little bit of food prep, making 2 or 3 overnight chia seed puddings, like you said, chia seed is anti-inflammatory. Top that with berries that are anti-inflammatory, keeping our sugars down. I mean, in that whole chia seed pudding, without the berries, it's maybe 1 or 2 grams of net carbs. And a lot of us need that, whether it's for weight loss, reducing inflammation, healing the GI tract. I think sometimes we overwhelm ourselves thinking it's going to be difficult to eat healthy or it's too time consuming. But I can literally do food prep for the entire week in under an hour, only because I'm used to, once the chicken's in the oven, then I'm chopping the salad, the hard-boiled eggs are going, and you can get into a beautiful rhythm and set yourself up for success for the week, for sure.
I completely agree with you. I've gotten a lot better at that. I'm not to an hour of food prep, I can tell you that, but I enlist help. And so it's kind of a family affair. And so we make it fun. And I think that's, with food, it doesn't have to be a punishment. None of this is meant to be a punishment. It's finding how you can make it work. So food prep, make it fun, have family, get it to where it doesn't take so long. Kind of like what I tell my son when he's doing chores, like it doesn't have to take that long. You can make it quicker and more fun. And same thing with being prepared for the week. I understand the success that I enjoy when I've prepared a little bit for those hairy times, or, oh, I didn't plan this right, I don't have enough time in between to really eat. And typically that lends yourself to wanting to grab something from a fast food restaurant or grab a snack that invariably is going to be processed, high sugar, So I appreciate all of that. That's a good reminder because, that was a huge positive factor in my eating success throughout the week, is food prep and being able to kind of plan ahead and be prepared to just grab it and eat it and go. So awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate that. When we go to post this video, we're going to have your links of how people can get in touch with you and learn how they can work with you. But I do think you may have a special offer for those that are watching this today. And it's something that I would love to share with those that watch this. And that is that if they have never worked with you before, they get a special rate. And if they have worked with you before and they saw this video, they get a little discount for a check-in. Is that right?
That is correct. Yes, I'll offer a discount. Just so people are aware, I do not bill health insurance. I am fee for service. My initial 1-hour consultation is normally $150 and follow-ups are $50. If you mention this today, you can get the initial consultation for $125 and follow-ups for $40.
Awesome. I love that. And I tell you, this is the best money you will spend because I come away with so many action items and so much knowledge. And she helps me to find inexpensive ways to make changes or transitions or tweaks into my diet that I feel like it's a savings when you really count what the changes are. So I love that and appreciate that for those watching. And I can't wait for us to check in again when I've made some of the changes that we've recently talked about. But thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Be empowered. Be your own self-advocate. Check out our website, hopehwa.com.